Alright boys, we're back at it again, and this time we're doing a little bit different of a tier list. The last two that we've posted for you were Ben 10 tier lists, but spoilers for Pokemon Journeys, so if you haven't seen Pokemon Journeys, definitely get off this video. But in celebration of Ash beating Leon, we're going to go ahead and rank every single one of his Pokemon from Gen 1 to Gen 8, including temporary ones. And this time, instead of Battledome Darren and Battledome Mike, I got a real Pokemon master here to help me. We got Battledome Punny.
Hello.
And me and him have seen a pretty good amount of the Pokemon anime. I was watching Journeys week to week for a while. I've pretty much been watching it since I had Conscious Thought. And if you've seen our Pokemon videos on TikTok, Punny's really the one that kind of spearheads those and helps us with them. So I guess we can go ahead and get right into it.
Alright. Now where do we want to start?
Well, I know I can see you have them in ABC order, but I guess we can probably... Generally what we do with the Ben 10 tier list is just kind of place one in each tier.
I think we can go ahead and put Pikachu at the top already.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. I don't think we're... I mean, we might get a few arguments for that, just because he has a lot of anti-feats. I can't wait for the got beat by a level 5 Snivy comments.
Well, for one thing, he was debuffed by Zekrom and then that entire season, now it's just anti-feat city, but he's consistently Ash's ace. He's brought Latios to a draw. He's fought Lugia, defeated Tapu Koko, put a really close match against Zeraora, consistently just fights in sometimes draws, sometimes barely loses, but lately he's been winning a lot of these fights against legendaries, mythicals. In this fight against Cynthia, Ash losing Pikachu so early was basically the make or break for that entire fight. And his team had to go overtime to beat Cynthia. And then versus Leon, he easily dispatches Leon's Cinderace, and then brings in a close victory against Leon's Charizard, which is probably the strongest Pokemon a trainer's ever owned.
I mean, people used to say that about Alon's Charizard back in the day, and I mean, we saw what Leon's Charizard did to Alon's Charizard.
Yeah, Alon's Charizard had showings against Steven's Mega Metagross, Lysander's Mega Gyarados, and even Primal Kyogre and Groudon. And that Pokemon being absolutely fodderized by Leon's Charizard, and Pikachu beating that makes Pikachu undoubtedly Ash's strongest Pokemon. Even back in Kanto and Johto, Pikachu was capable of powering entire buildings and cities. In the Battle Frontier, he did the best against basically every battle he was thrown in. If you need a go-to Pokemon for Ash, it is Pikachu.
Yeah, which does feel fairly obvious, but I feel like there's a lot of contrarian arguments that people make that put Pikachu lower. But I feel like the battle with Leon really kind of proved that not only is Pikachu Ash's strongest Pokemon, but he's probably one of, if not the strongest trainer Pokemon in the whole anime.
I don't see anybody taking that top spot from Pikachu. There's some Pokemon Ash owns that come close, but not close enough.
Yeah, I think that's fair. So, I mean, that's a pretty easy one. Who do you think we should put into our first A tier?
A tier, I'm feeling Bulbasaur.
I think that's fair. One thing that mainly comes to mind was his showing against Brandon. I mean, we all know how hyped up Ash's Charizard is, and in that battle, Ash's Charizard was taken out by Dusclops, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and Bulbasaur was fighting that Dusclops very well.
Yeah, he ended up taking out another Pokemon. I think it was Claydol, right?
Can't remember off the top of my head, but that sounds correct.
Yeah, but he was definitely putting in work in the Battle Frontier in general, but mainly against Brandon.
Some other feats he has is he pulls up an entire house out of the water in tandem with Bayleaf. He one-shots a Scyther, which is a Pokemon that quad resists Bulbasaur and just one-tapping that's pretty ridiculous. It was faster than a missile in the Porygon episode, which thankfully I didn't get a seizure watching.
Yeah, which we definitely won't be showing in the edited version for obvious reasons.
No sells his own Razor Leaf, which is pretty strong. I believe it was his own league. He had a Solar Beam with a Bigadium so big he covered the entire stadium. And that Solar Beam has ridiculous range as well. I think he shot over a mountain once.
So, and if I recall, he doesn't really have any showings against like legendary Pokemon or champion level Pokemon, but I think his showings are probably solid enough to keep him in A tier.
Yeah, I feel like that's a pretty good place for him right now.
And even in terms of portrayal, he's still kind of portrayed as one of the heavy hitters of Ash's team. I wouldn't quite call him an ace, I don't think, but he's definitely like one of the stronger supporting Mons.
Yeah, in every battle he's been in, he's consistently done well.
Okay, so since we have him in A tier, which I guess in terms of like the tiers, probably say like S tier would just be like top tier, kind of champions ace level Pokemon.
I'd say like S tier would be like Pokemon you see in the Master League to contend in anywhere in there. A tier would be like Ultra League. B tier would be like Great League. C tier would be like the Poké League, and D tier, good luck, buddy.
Yeah, it's a good thing that Pokemon literally gave us like a ranking system to use in the tier list.
Yeah, that's
and I feel like probably none of these Pokemon are like, well, maybe some of them, but none of them are like outright bad, I don't think. Since they are all Ash's Pokemon. I mean, some of them might be like pretty lackluster. But I feel like there's no like bottom tier Pokemon in terms of like the general strength level of the Pokemon anime.
Like, the weakest of Ash's Pokemon is probably stronger than the average trainer's Pokemon.
Okay, since we're on that topic, then do you wanna go ahead and banish our first Pokemon to D tier?
Bye Butterfree.
Oh, I hate to do it to him, but yeah, I'm pretty sure you're right.
He gets like one fight against Misty, and that's about it, I think.
Right, yeah, right when I was saying there's no outright bad Pokemon, we throw Butterfree into D tier. Yeah, that's probably right.
Yeah, he survived the hit from that giant Tentacruel that took out all of Ash's early team. But one, that feat is so ridiculous, I don't know if I can take it seriously. I'm not sure if that's really a feat, since everybody was taken out by it, and Butterfree just got owned.
But yeah, considering Butterfree only ever got like the early Kanto saga to even show off what it could do, I think it's probably fair to put them in like the bottom tier of who Ash has had. Top tier in terms of emotional impact, probably, but low tier in terms of combat.
Top tier, so top tier they keep showing us the episode and remaking it.
Yeah, like 4 times probably.
I'm surprised it hasn't come back at all. I suppose that's for the best, really.
He's a family man now.
Yeah, we just get an episode cutting to him, like he's just walking back home with like a briefcase and a hat.
No pink Butterfree GF, so why live?
Truly. So, let's get out of the bad Pokemon and let's go to just mediocre C tier.
Okay, so who do you think we got in C tier?
I feel like a prime example would be Noctowl.
Noctowl, okay, yeah. I'm glad you got him in ABC order, so I don't have to go searching. So you think Noctowl's C tier?
He has some very impressive things about him, like his illusions and his psychic abilities, but in terms of as a fighter, he's just kind of alright. He's faster than Morty's Haunter and Gengar, and I'm not really sure how to take him, because he's at least as fast as one of Team Rocket's balloons, well, faster, and the process of chasing that thing, he's dodged missiles, which is good. Otherwise, other than just kind of fighting Morty, he doesn't really get that many showings. He's taken a hit from Johto Pikachu, which is...
So, like, he's decently fast for, like, a general Pokemon, but if we compare him to, like, the others of Ash's bird Pokemon, he's not really... Do you think he's the... Maybe not the weakest of the birds, but he's definitely, like, in the lower rankings of Ash's.
Yeah, I'd say he's the slowest.
And that's kind of their specialty. Usually, Ash's flight Pokemon is... They're usually, like, one of, if not the fastest ones on his team.
Yeah, Noctowl doesn't really get a chance to shine whatsoever outside of that Morty fight.
Which is ironic considering he's the only shiny Pokemon that Ash has.
Yeah, like a shiny, we rarely see him.
Okay, well, I think that's fair. It's kind of like a Butterfree situation where Noctowl doesn't really get that many showings, but at least the showings that Noctowl has are a lot better compared to Butterfree.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Okay, so B tier, that's kind of like the middle ground, like the middle to high tier Pokemon that Ash has. Who do you think is going to be our first B tier?
Perfectly middle of the road Pokemon, I think, is Torterra.
Torterra, okay, that's an interesting one.
Torterra gets some good showings against Paul, but fun fact, ever since Grotto evolves into Torterra, he has never won a single fight.
That's a good point, actually. He does job quite a bit after turning to Torterra. Like, he had that character arc as a Turtwig and as a Grotto where he was trying to kind of adapt now that he wasn't as fast as he was when he was a Turtwig. But after he kind of adapted that way and into becoming more of a tank, he just kind of lost over and over again.
Yeah, he theoretically is Ash's more durable Pokemon, but the guy cannot take hits. Like, he can tank, like, some of Ball's best Pokemon and fight nearly on the same level, but he just keeps jobbing.
Yeah, he kind of fell off in favor of, like, in favor of, like, an Infernape and Pikachu. He kind of fell off as one of Ash's main Pokemon in Sinnoh.
Yeah, Sinnoh kind of became the Infernape show near the end, and that's why Torterra doesn't really get a chance to shine.
Which I guess is fair considering Infernape does have one of the better character arcs of Ash's Pokemon, but you just hate to see our boy Torterra suffer for it.
Yeah, I wouldn't say he's bad at all. He's definitely, like, a Pokemon that can contend in any of the major leagues, but he just doesn't really perform as well as you'd want.
Yeah, like, he's not going to carry your team in like a league battle. He's more of like a support type, it feels like, at least later in the series.
Yeah, he's got some good moves. I think he has that ridiculous feat of shrugging off an Ice Beam from Reggie shared by Apom and Weasel in one of the shorts.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about that. I remember thinking that was pretty insane.
Considering... He also has that feat of destroying Dialga's Draco Meteor as a Turtwig, but I don't think we should count that.
Yeah, I was going to say that as well. I think Krogunk does the same thing as well.
I think Torterra's best fight is against Bertha's Hippowdon, actually.
Hilda, the Elite Four?
Yeah, the Elite Four ground member in Sinnoh. He gives that Hippowdon a decent fight, but ultimately loses.
I feel like that's pretty decent. I remember, I feel like it was probably a similar portrayal that Pikachu got at the beginning of Battle Frontier when he fought against Agatha's Gengar.
Yeah, I compare it to Flint, the Infernape mirror match against Flint in Sinnoh, but both of their Infernapes are ridiculous. So I'm not sure how.
Yeah, I mean, Flint at one point was top 8, right? In Journeys. I think he was Masterclass at one point because I think he was about to challenge Leon, or he did challenge Leon, but he got bodied by Leon's Charizard.
Everybody gets bodied by Leon's Charizard. What's new?
Yeah, I feel like that's going to be a phrase that we repeat a lot in this video.
Volkner was pretty high in Ultra League, and Flint is Volkner's rival, if not his better.
Yeah, I think that's fair. So I think it's probably fair to put him in B tier. I think he'll probably be one of the higher B tiers just because he does have those that feat against an Elite Four Pokemon, which before Journeys was like probably one of the top feats that a Pokemon could have. But since we have Pokemon ranked in each tier now, I guess we can go ahead and just pick from wherever we want to pick from now. I don't know if you want to start with Ash's Aces or just go in ABC order.
I think we could do his. Let's do his ace of each region, starting with Charizard.
Charizard. I can already hear the comments typing. So where do you think we're going to put our boy Charizard?
I'd say high A, low S.
I think that's fair. I'll put him in high A just while we discuss. He was the first of Ash's Pokemon, if I remember correctly, to outright defeat a legendary when he beat Articuno in the Battlefront tier.
And he was one of Ash's first to even contend with other legendaries, like the fake Entei that the Unknowns made.
That's true. And I also think that he has, in Power of One, I think he has feats against other legendary birds, even before, and then I think that was still a Kanto movie, I think.
I think that was in 2000, maybe?
Yeah, Pokemon, the one with the Lugia.
Yeah. Charizard was basically the only Pokemon fighting those birds.
Yeah, and for a long time throughout pretty much all of Kanto, Johto, and most of Hoenn, you could probably consider Charizard to be Ash's strongest Pokemon. I think that's pretty fair.
I'd say even up to Unova, since he does beat Iris's Dragonite.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely looked like he was going to take him out.
Like, Iris's Dragonite, even to Nova, was monster. Nobody in that region was comparing to it. And then here comes Charizard.
Yeah, I think that the only comparisons you can really make to Charizard up until past Unova is probably Pikachu beating Regice, and then maybe Sceptile fighting Deoxys and beating Darkrai.
Yeah, I think that's fair. He also defeats Gary's Blastoise in the Johto League, which is a monster, easily capable of dispatching Bayleaf, who I think is probably another A tier.
And even in Sinnoh, when Gary pulled out Electivire, he was still able to... it's obviously not a one-to-one comparison, his Electivire and his Blastoise, but his Electivire was still above Pikachu going into Sinnoh. So I think that's just kind of a good portrayal of Gary as a trainer, and the fact that Charizard was able to defeat his ace at the time just kind of further goes to portray that he probably was the strongest up through Unova.
Yeah, I think it's perfectly fair to put Charizard in S tier.
Yeah, I think he'll probably go in, for now, S tier below Pikachu. I don't think we can justify putting him in A just considering all the feats that he has against legendaries and against top tier trainers.
Yeah, so Gen 2 Ace, I think that title goes to Snorlax.
Yeah, actually Snorlax is weirdly good. 6-move Snorlax.
God King Snorlax. Pokemon beat themselves up trying to defeat it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, what's her name? The fighting lady from... I think it's Greta. Yeah, from Battlefront here. I'm pretty sure her Hitmonchan, or it might have been her, not her Hitmonchan, her Metachan, but I think it also might have been her Hariyama, actually hurt its hand hitting Snorlax.
Yeah, he one-shot to Bulbasaur just by landing on him. One-shot Greta's Hariyama. He no-sells an entire combined attack from all of Ash's Orange Island team, which included Bulbasaur, Pikachu, and Charizard.
Yeah, that's pretty insane, and that was a team that ended up winning the Orange League in general. Yeah, an interesting fact about Snorlax is I'm pretty sure he's never been in a battle where he hasn't beaten at least one Pokemon before going down.
I think that's correct.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's right. And the fact that he can, as memey as it is the fact that he could use 6 moves in one battle.
It's a meme, but it is viable.
But for now, I think that Snorlax being the king of A, I think that's probably fair. He doesn't have too many showings, but the showings that he has definitely portray him as a beast.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly fair. Speaking of things that I don't believe get a lot of showings, but everything his showings are immaculate, Sceptile.
Yeah, Sceptile was portrayed as Ash's ace in the Hoenn region. I don't think putting him any lower than A is going to be fair.
Yeah, he defeated Darkrai in the Sinnoh League.
And a lot of people don't look at the fact that Darkrai was using Dark Void and Dream Eater over and over again and getting its health regenerated.
Yeah, Sceptile basically beat up a full power Darkrai. He's also beat up Deoxys' speed so hard Deoxys had to revert to its regular
form. He
form.
Caught up to Deoxys' speed form. I feel like that's a pretty insane feat for the Pokemon universe.
Yeah, that thing is at least speed of sound, and probably faster than any other Pokemon, including jet Pokemon like Pilates and Garchomp.
So do you think those feats scaling to legendaries put Sceptile at the top of A?
Oh yeah, here's a feat I forgot. He nearly defeats Brandon's Regirock.
Oh yeah, that was when Ash was possessed by... he was acting evil. Well, it was some weird old pharaoh. It was a Yu-Gi-Oh thing.
Yeah. Sceptile crippled Regirock.
Yeah, that's one of the better feats in the Battle Frontier.
Yeah, that's on the same level as Snorlax's sweep of Greta.
I also think that it's just sweet to note that Sceptile is so loyal to Ash that he'll listen to his commands even when he morally doesn't agree with them. That doesn't have anything to do with power. It's just... he's just so loyal.
Yeah, so loyal he breaks out of Dark Void itself.
That's true too. Yeah, I mean that's a pretty insane feat in and of itself as well.
Yeah, I don't think most Pokemon are doing that.
So what do you think, Sceptile as a king of A?
Yeah, I don't think he could be the bottom of S. He rides a line.
I don't think, yeah, I mean, I probably wouldn't argue with putting him at the bottom of S.
Because I don't think it's fair to put him on the same level as, Bulbasaur, who's a very good Pokemon, but I don't think he's gonna be able to fight a legendary as well as Sceptile could.
I think that's fair. I do think that maybe he might be below Charizard still, just due to pure portrayal.
Oh yeah, of course, Charizard is easily, higher than Sceptile, but I would not fault you for thinking Sceptile is, extremely comparable.
So would you see Sceptile as, a champion level Pokemon?
I'd see him as an Elite Four level. If an Elite Four member had a Pokemon like Sceptile, I would not blink.
He might end up being, the threshold for S, if somebody beats Sceptile, then they're S.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly valid.
But if we're going by aces, next we got Sinnoh's ace, which I think is inarguably Infernape.
Infernape hard carried Ash through the Sinnoh League.
Yeah, and like Sceptile, I don't think there's any argument for him being lower than A. I know that when Journeys came along, there's a big argument going for whether or not he did defeat Charizard before going to challenge Moltres. So, where do you stand on that?
I think he at least sparred with Charizard. He's able to fight as enough of an equal to where he can spar. He's at least fast enough to keep up with Gengar, which I think is one of Ash's fastest Pokemon.
And the fact that he was training Gengar at that point, who I think was easily Elite Four level.
Yeah, even then, Gengar was goofy strong. And I think in the whole Sinnoh League, even just activating Blaze just enveloped the entire Sinnoh League in flame. And that's something we haven't
melted the entire front row, probably.
It's like that scene in SpongeBob where the crowd gets hit by the fryer. While he didn't win against Moltres, so we didn't really see him go into Blaze, which is his strongest state.
Yeah, that's true. It felt weird. Like, he got outperformed by Gary's Blastoise, it felt like. Which is just weird. Like, he almost got one shot by Moltres, which I just feel like is not a very good portrayal of how I feel like how strong Infernape should be.
Yeah, that's the single time Infernape has ever jobbed. Like, I think in a serious fight, he's giving Moltres an extremely close fight, if not a win.
Yeah, because make the comparison how Charizard performed against Articuno and Moltres, and comparing that to Infernape's performance against Moltres is just, I feel like that doesn't add up.
Yeah, like Charizard and Infernape are pretty comparable Pokemon. Like even as a Chimchar, he was able to send a whole Metagross flying and knocked out Paul's Ursaring, which is one of his strongest, if not his strongest.
That feat is pretty insane. When Paul had his battle against Brandon in the Sinnoh League, or in the Sinnoh Saga, Ursaring was able to clash pretty evenly with Regice, and he beat Pikachu at the lake. It was Lake Acuity, right, where they had their 6-on-6.
Yeah, I think it was that.
Yeah, and he beat Pikachu in that fight, a Pokemon that in turn defeated Regice. And while Regice did end up defeating Ursaring, the fact that Ursaring was able to clash evenly with him, that kind of line of scaling goes all the way back to Infernape as a Chimchar.
Yeah. Paul is an insane trainer, and even though he's not in the official ranking, him coming back in Journeys, he gave Ash an extremely hard time in this fight. So I think that's a good portrayal of Paul's level as a trainer.
Yeah, I mean, the Pokemon that we had never seen the Pokemon that we had never seen Paul use, it was Garchomp. It was all the aces that Ash would have faced in the Master League. They were at like champion level more than likely, or like at least Elite Four level, despite the fact that we had never seen him train those Pokemon in the Sinnoh League. So those are just Pokemon that he caught after that.
Yeah, even as a rookie, Paul is a monster of a trainer. And Infernape beating 3 out of his 6 in the Sinnoh League is insane.
So despite Infernape jobbing against Moltres, do you think he goes above Sceptile?
That's a really good question, because Sceptile gets those feeds against Deoxys, but Infernape does better against name trainers. Sceptile does better against legendaries. And
I think that's a fair comparison. And we do see that Sceptile doesn't have too big a problem firefighting starters, which I guess it isn't a fair comparison since May isn't even close to as strong as Infernape, I don't think. But the fact that Sceptile was able to fight with Blaziken.
Yeah, but that Blaziken is weirdly strong. Using Blaziken as a baseline, we could use the one that more or less swept Ash in the Johto League, I guess.
I mean, yeah, that's true. I think Harrison and May would probably be pretty comparable in terms of how strong their Blazikens are. And Blaziken did beat Charizard, but we're going into some very, very loose scaling with that.
Yeah, I do think there is enough of a case to put Infernape in S. I'm just not sure how S. I think he's weaker than Charizard, but I don't know if he's weaker than Sceptile.
See, I think that's fair. I think Charizard's feats are a little bit better than Infernape's, which might sound like blasphemy to some people, but I just think that Charizard's portrayal has been consistently as one of Ash's strongest Pokemon. And despite the fact I don't really agree with how Infernape was portrayed in his Journeys episode against Moltres, it still happened. And I think that the comparison between how Charizard performs against legendary birds versus how Infernape performs against legendary birds, I think that's kind of maybe not clear cut, but I think it's enough of a baseline for us to say that Charizard is above Infernape.
Yeah. So, Unova Ace. Crocodile, I believe.
Yeah, I could see the Unova Ace being Crocodile. Either Crocodile or Snivy. But yeah, probably Crocodile.
That's not Snivy the sleeper hit, but Crocodile, I think, is pretty determined to be narratively his ace.
I think that's true, and you're probably going to have to take the lead on this one, because Unova is definitely the region that I'm the least brushed up on.
Yeah. He defeats Bryson's Beartic, who was giving other members of Ash's Unova team a hard time, and the moment he evolves from Krokorok to Crocodile, he completely dunks on Iris's Dragonite.
And that's a pretty decent feat.
It is not a close fight. And
Obviously,
Iris
it wouldn't be on the same level as, Champion Iris, but it was still, like you said earlier, portrayed as one of the strongest Pokemon that we saw in Unova.
Yeah, he had skills above most of Ash's Unova Pokemon, like Leavanny and Pheasant, probably Bulldor as well, who's weirdly strong in his own right. Crocodile's thing, though, is that he doesn't really get a lot of time to shine.
So do you think he would be like the Butterfree / Noctowl of B tier?
Yeah, I think B tier is pretty good for him, because B tier is like trip level, and I think that's
Trip level.
the most competent trainer in Unova.
Palette swapped Paul.
New accessory, photography machine.
Yeah, he's like if there were a Pokemon fighting game, he'd be like the second costume for Paul.
Yeah.
So do you think he goes above Torterra though?
Good question. Crocodile definitely gets more wins and is shown
Yeah, it seems like he gets more spotlighted wins than Torterra does.
Yeah. Although Torterra has fought stronger Pokemon. So it's an interesting fight, I'd say. Because I think these two can be pretty interchangeable. I think the ease at which Crocodile beat Iris's Dragonite puts him a bit higher than Torterra.
Yeah, I was going to say that actually, because I don't think I would see Torterra dispatching of Iris's Dragonite quite that easily.
Yeah, I think he wins against Unova Iris Dragonite, but not as easily as Crocodile.
Okay, I think that's fair. But if we're going by aces once again, we got a real big boy coming next.
Ash Grid Ninja. He's fought legendaries, fought the Megalith, nearly defeated Elaine's Megazord X.
Nearly defeated Diantha's Gardevoir.
Yeah, he nearly defeated Diantha's Gardevoir, which...
I think she did state that she wasn't trying, but,
It wasn't that she wasn't trying, she wasn't going quite full power, but
that's what it was.
That final Fuma Shuriken would have knocked Gardevoir out.
Yeah, regardless of how much you're not trying your absolute hardest, or the fact that you're holding back a little bit, isn't going to affect the durability of your Pokemon.
Yeah, and Diantha's Pokemon, Gardevoir, is a Pokemon that can eat hits from other Master Rank Pokemon.
Yeah, she proved it. She got to the top 4 of the Master League tournament.
Yeah, above Elaine, above Iris, above even Ash. Though Ash keeps getting better and better, so that's not quite fair.
Yeah, at that point, she was... What was she ranked? What was her ranking at that point? I forgot.
She was... I think she was number 4 under Steven and Cynthia.
Because I know she was above Elan, which honestly the implication could be that she ended up defeating Elan, because Elan won the Kalos League, giving him the right to challenge the champion.
But even comparing her, even the ones in her Elite Four, the Dragon Elite Four, remember what? Drasna. Oh,
Drasna. Yeah, she was pretty high in Ultra Class.
Yeah, I think she was 35 or something.
She was 12th.
Krasna, number 12? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so the 12th strongest trainer in the entire world was one of Diantha's Elite Four.
Okay.
So, I mean, yeah.
That's a fact we both forgot, and...
I mean, I feel like that puts Greninja at a pretty crazy... Like, that almost makes me feel like he would be like a masterclass Mon on his own.
I think he might be stronger than some of Ash's Journey's team. Because he was dunking on base Lucario. And
yeah, I remember, when he was training him.
Yeah, base Lucario is a Pokemon able to contend with, like, Cynthia's Garchomp for a while. Which is probably, like, ranked just under Leon's Charizard.
Yeah, I mean, one of the strongest Pokemon in the history of the anime is Cynthia's Garchomp.
Yeah, even then, like, half of Ash's Journey team had to dogpile Garchomp just to take it down.
So, I mean, I think it would be fair to say that Greninja might be just under Pikachu. I don't know if we want to put him above Charizard, but I think it's fair.
I think it's perfectly fair to put Greninja under Charizard, over Charizard, I mean. Because even weaker Pokemon in Ash's Kalos team are able to fight the legendary birds, such as Noivern and Talonflame, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, Ash's Kalos team was really putting in work.
Yeah, I think anyone, that stupid Kalos League could be ultra, like, high, great, low, ultra. And Greninja was the carry alongside Pikachu.
Yeah, and I mean, that was when Ash really became definitively, like, Elite Four champion level was in Kalos. And then we see him become inarguably champion level in Alola.
Yeah, even Backwater region Alola. That... We'll get to it, but
I think that's fair.
Some Pokemon with pretty good showings in Alola.
Yeah, I think we'll be surprised at some of the rankings that we end up having to give them.
Yeah, but Ash Greninja at number 2 for now is perfectly where I'd put him.
Yeah, I think it's fair. So his Alola ace.
They're all kind of comparable.
Yeah, I think so too. Like that's one of the only reasons that one of the only regions where I feel like he doesn't have like a definitive carry.
Like, you could make the argument for Torracat, you could make the argument for Lycanroc. You could even make the argument for Rowlet.
I think maybe Lycanroc...
His carry in that region was Pikachu.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like, if we're being honest, the ace in that region was Pikachu. But other than that, I think probably Lycanroc, because that was the Pokemon that he ended up winning against Gladion with.
Yeah, and Gladion is undoubtedly a top-level trainer, owning a legendary of his own. Even in Lycanroc is able to fight Tapu Bulu, and even defeats it. Also, capable of defeating Gladion's Dusk Lycanroc, which is his own ace aside from Silvally. Defeated Titanol.
And he was able to, with Gladion's Lycanroc, if I remember correctly, was able to staggle a Guzzlord, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and Guzzlord is casually building level.
So I think Lycanroc is pretty easily A, at least.
Yeah. I haven't even gotten to his better feats. I think he also defeated Kayawe's Charizard, which is a Pokemon capable of staggering Necrozma with his flamethrower. And Kiawe's not even the best, even like top 8. I don't even think he got to the quarterfinals in that entire league.
Yeah, as much as Alola was a backwater league, like you said, a lot of the trainers there were pretty high tier.
Like, Lycanroc as a default is minimum A tier. If it activates a Red Eyes, it's even stronger, because that's where the majority of Lycanroc's goofiest feats come from. And even as a base, he was fighting and defeating Tapu Bulu.
If I remember correctly, I think it was Pheromosa. No, I think it was one of the Tapus. As a Rockruff, he was still tanking hits from one of the Tapus.
Yeah, that was Bulu.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that was Bulu. Yeah, so even as a Rockruff, it was still able to tank hits from a legendary Pokemon.
Yeah, like, the only Pokemon as a base 1 evolution I think is capable of doing that is, like, Chimchar.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. So do you think maybe putting Lycanroc at the top of A, maybe like the guardian of A tier? Or do you think he deserves to be S?
That's interesting, because he does fight and defeat legendaries. And he does defeat some of the strongest Pokemon in the entire Alola region. I'm not sure how well he crosses into that threshold of, like, Infernape and Sceptile, though.
Yeah, I personally, I would probably put him as, like, just the king of A. At this point, like, the final boss of our A tier.
If you're fighting Ash as an Alola champion, he'd be the final boss.
Yeah, okay, I could see that. So, before we go in Sinnoh mode and go into the Journeys team, I kind of want to revisit Sceptile versus Infernape. Because I almost feel like Infernape should go above Sceptile.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly reasonable. Because Sceptile just has less showings.
I mean, Sceptile, he has his showings against legendary Pokemon, which fighting Deoxys, catching up to his speed form, and defeating Darkrai, who was undoubtedly probably the strongest non-champion Pokemon in the Sinnoh League. I still just think that Infernape's overall portrayal and just the big wins that he's gotten put him above Sceptile.
I think Infernape would do a bit better against Latios than Sceptile did.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. And even his lowest showing that we talked about with Moltres, it didn't have his Blaze ability going. So I definitely think that's fair. And the fact that he's able to spar evenly with Charizard, I know a lot of people think that he beat Charizard because the argument is, why would he go after Moltres if he lost to Charizard? But nobody really talks about the fact that it was a sparring match and they probably just stalemated, maybe. You can't really say for sure.
Yeah, it was shown, and even in other sparring matches like Sirfetch'd fighting, sparring with Oshawott and Sceptile at the same time, those two weren't portrayed as going all out.
Yeah, and there's definitely a lot to say the difference between a sparring match and like a league match. So I think that would be a little bit more fair, putting Sceptile as like the threshold of S tier, like I mentioned earlier.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly valid. And now Journey's ace has to be Lucario.
Yeah, I mean, I remember in the intro at one point he was portrayed as fighting Leon, which obviously doesn't mean a whole lot, but I think overall he's probably portrayed as Ash's ace in Journeys. I mean, and when you think about it, really all of his Pokemon are like ace level Pokemon, but I think Lucario is definitely going in S.
He's face tanked an attack from an Eternatus as just a Lucario, not even Mega. He beat Volkner's Luxray. He's KO'd Raihan's Duraludon while it's G-Maxed.
Yeah, and I mean, that's pretty insane considering Raihan was stated to be able to become a champion in a different league. Like, I think Raihan is probably one of the strongest. No, he's probably the strongest gym leader in the whole series.
Yeah, like, he was number 9. At least number 8 until Ash knocked him down. Lucario also gets that feat of fighting Mewtwo, but I don't think that's fair to really state, since Mewtwo got dunked on Cinderace and Lucario at the same time. But the fact that Lucario is at all comparable is really impressive.
Yeah, and that was before Lucario even hit his peak.
And Lucario, at his peak, defeated Bees, G-Max, Machamp, defeated Cynthia's Togekiss, was the linchpin Ash had against defeating Cynthia's Garchomp as well. Lucario also defeating, well, it was Leon's Mr. Rhyme. I don't know how you took the fight, but I took the fight against Sirfetch'd as Rhyme completely having the advantage.
Yeah, I could see that. And I don't know if I did not expect Mr. Rhyme to be such a monster, but he is one of Leon's strongest Pokemon, it seems like.
Yeah. Though Lucario did get defeated right after by Dragapult, that's still... Any of Leon's Pokemon, maybe save Cinderace, definitely give any other Master League a hard time. We saw that with Leon's Rillaboom against Lane.
Yeah. I mean, just seeing that fight really shows how powerful, even bar Charizard, like how powerful Leon's other Pokemon are. So with the showings that Lucario has in Journeys being easily probably one of the strongest Pokemon owned by a trainer, and easily champion level, I think he's above Infernape, maybe Charizard too.
I'd confidently put him above Charizard.
Which I think is fair. Like, Charizard is obvious, like we mentioned, he was portrayed as Ash's strongest Pokemon for more than half the series. But the radical power creep that comes from Kalos, Alola, and Galar is just insane.
It's so unfair.
That's what sucks too, is I wish that Ash would have used more of his old Pokemon, because really his Journeys team just gets all the sauce.
Yeah, I would have loved to see him like use, like, oh, I'm fighting against, I don't know, Volkner or something. Come on out, Boldor.
Yeah, or even, it doesn't even need to be like in the Master class. Just let us see like Volkner, even Drosna, or even like one of the Elite Four that he fought.
You know who he did that with? He did it with Mimey.
Oh yeah! Oh god. A Pokemon that we literally didn't see fight beforehand.
It's the closest thing Mimey had to a feat beforehand was overpowering Brock.
Which I love Brock, but he's not going to be relevant in the World Coronation series.
I didn't mean Brock's Pokemon, I meant Brock.
Oh, was it just Brock himself?
Brock the man.
I mean, he's pretty chiseled, but I don't think he's making it on this tier list.
No.
So I guess the real argument I think we're gonna have here is Greninja versus Lucario.
It's interesting because I can see either of them being number 2, because Greninja had that awesome showing against Diantha.
Which is still relevant in Pokemon Journeys, weirdly.
But it's the ease at which Leon defeated a line, which is the strangest thing. A line jobs hard enough to make me question the integrity of Ash Greninja being number 2.
I think that's perfectly fair, which does suck because I was expecting Alon to be like... I wanted to see Ash beat him, but I understand why.
Yeah, he had to go through the 4-3-2-1 with Lance, etc., etc.
Yeah. As far as the like ladder of scaling goes, I think that putting Lucario over Greninja, as dirty as it feels, I think it might be the way to go.
But the thing is, could Mega Lucario 1v1 at Diantha's Mega Gardevoir like that?
Oh.
Keep in mind, this was Ash Greninja just as he was getting the transformation.
Yeah, like that wasn't even after he mastered it. But it also feels weird at the same time that, like you said, his performance against Alon's Charizard compared to Leon's Charizard performance against Alon's Charizard. Which I guess, obviously, like, Lucario isn't bodying Alon's Charizard like Leon's Charizard did. Go ahead.
If Lucario fought Mega Charizard X Kalos League with the same conditions as Ash Greninja did, would he win?
He does have the type disadvantage, not that really matters in the anime a lot, but...
Yeah, Mr. Balasto Burn.
Yeah.
The move he didn't even use on Leon.
See, that's the part... That's what makes it hard to compare, because it's just like that Alon against Leon was truly just like the definition of jobbing.
Yeah, that there has never been a more cut and dry definition of jobbing in the anime ever.
But at the same time, it's kind of the main comparison that we have.
I think these Pokemon are extremely, extremely close to where if anyone ranks above the other, it's slightly. And I think that's Greninja at the end of the day.
So you think Greninja goes over Lucario?
I think Greninja goes over Lucario. Like, if you asked me a few days ago, I probably would have said Lucario, but now that I've really turned it over in my head, I think it's Greninja now. Mostly because even though Lucario wasn't at his best, he was still fighting against Greninja. He was still like an upper grade, lower master level Pokemon, and Greninja was just beating on him.
That's true. And while it wasn't Lucario's peak, I think a good comparison could be maybe how do you think Greninja would have performed if he replaced Lucario in the battle with Leon?
I honestly think he'd do slightly better because he has more versatility. That's the thing Ash and Lucario doesn't quite have. Lucario is pretty straightforward. Greninja has probably some of the highest amount of versatility out of any of Ash's Pokemon.
I think that's probably fair. It feels a little weird just because Lucario was one of Ash's strongest Pokemon in the Master League. So putting his ace from Kalos above that just feels kind of weird with how
But we did have two different Kalos representatives in the Master League, two of which Ash Greninja gave an extremely hard time to, and probably could have beaten.
Some might say should have.
Yeah. Like, the only reason he didn't win against Gardevoir was that Ash knocked out.
Yeah, like I think like the fact that he would have won that fight, like I don't think there's any argument to say he would not have won that fight if Ash didn't just KO himself.
I think it's perfectly valid to put these rankings where they are at the very moment.
Okay, I think that's fair. So that brings us through all of Ash's arguable aces through each region. So I guess where do we want to go from here? See, I was going to say since we went from the top, like the aces, maybe we go to the temporary Pokemon next.
Yeah, that'll be the likes of Beedrill, Buzzwole, etc.
Yeah. So I guess from the start we go for Beedrill.
Beedrill, the thing with no feats.
Yeah.
Beedrill in the anime can poke through metal, and that's about all this Beedrill has shown.
And we know that they're above most trainers, considering how many times they've used running away from Beedrill as a gag.
Beedrill Solo's your favorite verse.
Goku accidentally pokes a Beedrill nest. GG.
He doesn't even... He dies to the poison like he dies to the heart disease.
But since this particular Beedrill doesn't really have any feats, do you think just putting it under Butterfree is probably the best?
Yeah, Butterfree has feats, Beedrill doesn't. And I think that's where we need to put him.
I guess from the Virgin Beedrill to the Chad Buzzwole.
Yeah, if there's any Pokemon that embodies in the Giga Chad in this list, it is this or Crocodile.
True, I could see that. But what do you think Buzzwole would rank? Ash's temporary Buzzwole.
Buzzwole was shown to pretty much completely overwhelm Alola Pikachu. Not to the point where Alola Pikachu was like knocked out in one hit, but clear speed disadvantage, clear strength disadvantage. The only thing that could fight Buzzwole on an even level on the entire island was Beware.
Yeah, was Beware if they were on their list. Beware solos Leon, I guess.
Beware is unironically the strongest thing on Alola.
But Buzzwole, I guess Buzzwole is a legendary, technically.
But the sheer ease that it was fighting Alola Pikachu, who I think even then was an S tier Pokemon, is stupid.
Yeah, it feels weird to put a temporary Pokemon in S tier, but I mean, I don't really see an argument against it.
Yeah, he also put his stinger in a freaking Snorlax, sucked all the life out of it. Do we consider that an on-screen death?
Yeah, Buzzwole, the bloodlusted first on-screen Pokemon death.
Well, aside from Latios eating piss against the Tsunami in Heroes.
Oh yeah, that's true, actually.
I swore Latios was going to be on Ash's team, but since that was a movie, no.
That would have been... I actually would have loved that.
Yeah, I think I would have loved to see, like, interactions between like, Latios and the rest of the Johto team. Man, if you were there for the Latios fight, that would have been, like, poetry.
Oh, Latios versus Latios. I don't like to think the idea that that's the same Latios, because he just, like, stole that town's guardian, basically.
Oh, no, of course not. There is a Nursejoy with the Latios somewhere else.
Oh, yeah, the one that fights Brock's
imagine
little brother.
The Nursejoy goes to this random island, sees the Latios still in mourning, and says, "Hey, you want to come with me?"
No, well, Nursejoy took her through force.
To be fair, Latios isn't that strong.
That's fair. But Buzzwole,
anyway,
where do you think Buzzwole goes in S tier?
I don't think at Alola Pikachu was quite at his peak yet, but he was comparable to like Zeraora. And Magic Beware is a weirdly ridiculous feat for scaling.
Yeah. And, I mean, this is a genuine legendary level Pokemon, matching Beware, who's, I think, pretty inarguably legendary level, considering how many Ultra Beasts it's fought. Bodied Pheromosa.
Bodied Pheromosa, even with a Guzzlord. Man, that Pokemon is so stupid.
It really just, like, messes up the entire scaling.
Where do we even put this stupid Buzzwole? Like...
I don't want to put him above Infernape and Sceptile, but
I don't want.
He's like a temporary Pokemon.
I think that's perfectly valid because I think in a drawn-out fight, either of those two could beat the Buzzwole. But the thing is, we don't get to see drawn-out fights, and I think the primary reason Pikachu gets ragdolled is because he's so light.
Yeah, and I don't. Does Tapu Koko have any scaling to Guzzlord or to Buzzwole at all? I'm drawing for. I'm scrambling for something to justify not putting Buzzwole so high.
I don't think any of the Tapus fight Buzzwole. I think bottom of that Spherica is. I could see him dunking on Lycanroc, but nobody else above him.
I could see it. I think we're putting too much stock into him overpowering Alola Pikachu, which, as much as we've been singing Pikachu's praise, even in like the middle of some region sagas, he can job a lot.
Yeah, Alola was one of his less jobby regions, but still jobbing.
So I guess the next temporary Pokemon is Haunter. Does he have any feats, really?
He tears Ash's spirit from his body.
Oh, okay.
In terms of combat, none. In terms of weird ghost things, yeah, he has feats like that. But I don't think it's legal to steal the souls of your enemies.
I guess we can maybe put Haunter over Butterfree in D?
He's an odd duck. Since he's immune to psychics, he does have that advantage over all the other ones.
Yeah, and I guess those Pokemon were portrayed as like pretty unbeatable for a pretty good portion of the early anime.
Yeah, I think up top D is where you should be putting him.
Okay, so I guess
Next.
Larvitar is our next temporary Pokemon.
Easy C tier.
You said D tier, you think?
C. Like
C,
the
okay.
bottom of C.
The bottom of C. What showings does he really get? Because I only remember him hatching and then not doing a whole lot before leaving.
Like, he busts some rocket mechs, which I don't think any of D tier has really done. They started busting out the machines after Butterfree left, more or less. and Larvidar's. While those things are built like paper, they are still metal.
Yeah.
Larvidar also screeches so hard it makes every single one of Ash's Johto team visibly hurt.
Okay, so yeah, I think that's probably fair putting him at the bottom of C tier.
Yeah, he's not bad enough to be a D tier.
That's fair. And I guess the next temporary one is Mimey, the Brock destroying Mimey.
Brock Destroyer Mimey. I think this, and also C tier, maybe a B tier.
Maybe brush me up on what Mimey does, because I just remember him showing up. I don't remember too much else.
Oh, okay, looking at my notes, he's a bit more ridiculous than I remember it. He can react to missiles, completely overwhelms a Hariyama, blocks Riolu's Force Palm, who's weirdly comparable to early Journey's Pikachu, who was from episode 1 able to fight a freaking Lugia.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. It did shrug off his Thunderbolt, but he still fought it pretty decently.
Actually, I'd like to redact my earlier statement of Rockruff and Chimchar being strongest stage ones. It's that freaky Riolu.
Yeah, I think that's fair, actually. Riolu was pretty nuts for being a baby Pokemon.
So, Mimey being able to block hits from that is really good. But the thing is, we haven't seen him do anything else. Have we ever seen him use an attack?
Not that I can recall.
He probably knows attacking moves. He'd just rather make those stupid screens, which are durable. And he's strangely fast enough to back it up. What offense? Where offense?
Remember he does ward off Butch and Cassidy at one point, which isn't really much. I think they're like slightly more competent than Jesse and James. But other than that, I just really remember him just sitting back and watching Ash's respective leagues.
Being Ash's stepfather.
That's a pretty decent feat.
Yeah, I don't think he goes to A. He just has, A-level barriers. Maybe A-level speed. What are his output showings? Pray tell, because I
don't think he has any. I think like you said, I think it's all the barriers. And obviously overpowering the chiseled Brock.
He's also tanked a point-blank Thunderbolt from Journey's Pikachu, which is still stupid.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure Ash could also do that.
Yeah.
So, what do you think? Do you think what showings he has are pretty impressive? I don't know if it's enough to put him above Torterra and Crocodile.
Oh, undoubtedly not. I think he's just at the bottom of B tier.
I think that's fair, just due to lack of, any kind of output feats.
If this man was defending a city, he'd be S tier. If he had a gun, he'd be S tier.
If he had a Mimey with a gun. I mean, he's got to protect Delia somehow.
Of course.
So our next temporary Pokemon, I don't remember how to pronounce it. It's no. You can go ahead and
Nagandel.
Take that one. Nagandel. Okay.
I think by proxy we can also classify Melmetal as a temporary.
Okay, yeah, that's probably true. So we can cover Melmetal first.
Melmetal. I think in the league he's pretty comparable to someone like Dusk Lycanroc.
Yeah, I mean, and arguably another legendary Pokemon as well.
He had a close fight with Savali, but ultimately lost.
Which I feel like Savale is probably Elite 4 level, more than likely, just by virtue of being one of Gladion's stronger Pokemon.
Yeah, he also dunked on Kui's Empoleon and narrowly lost to his Incineroar, which is his ace.
So do you think maybe just below Lycanroc?
I'd say just below Lycanroc.
So Melmetal versus Snorlax, I guess, would probably be the the battle for that'll kind of determine this placement, I think, because I do think he probably goes above Bulbasaur, which is sad because I love Bulbasaur, but just through showings, I think Melmetal's above him.
Melmetal versus Snorlax. I think the high tier trainers Melmetal fights is stronger than the high tier trainers Snorlax fights. But the ease at which Snorlax does beat the Pokemon he was up against is put into contention here. Because Snorlax did that pretty easily, and Melmetal's all narrow losses.
Okay, so do you think that Melmetal goes below Snorlax?
If so, barely.
I think we can go ahead. Just due to lack of showings, I think we'll put Melmetal below Snorlax. Okay, yeah, Naganadel.
He's comparable to Guzzlords. Has a lot of Guzzlord scaling. And those are...
Is there really much else besides that?
He defeats Kukui's Lucario and gives Tapu Koko a good fight, but loses.
Okay, so I feel like he's definitely above Melmetal. I think he gets a lot, probably better victories than Melmetal does, and is obviously a legendary, well, Ultra Beast, but obviously Ultra Beasts are pretty relative to legendary Pokemon. Do you think he makes it into S?
I'd say he's weaker than Lycanroc, actually.
I could see that, probably. I mean, Lycanroc was definitively seen as, like, the ace, even when Naganadel was on Ash's team.
Yeah, while Naganadel is strong, I don't think he's quite at Lycanroc level, so I think putting him between Lycanroc and Snorlax is perfectly fair.
Yeah, I think the Guzzlord scaling kind of definitively places him right there, because I wouldn't see Snorlax or even Melmetal doing anything like that against Guzzlord.
Yeah. More Ultra Beast, Farah Mesa.
God, all this temporary Pokemon are going to be like legendaries and Ultra Beasts. But Pheromosa...
Either high tier or suck.
Yeah, which sucks. I hate to see all these temporary Pokemon on like the top of the list, but whatever.
Farah Mesa, like, one-shot Pikachu, one-shot Dusk Lycanroc, one-shot a lot of the Ultra Guardians aces, fought on par with Beware at her most angry until she had to eat a hit. In which
I was going to say, probably puts it definitively below Guzzlord, or, God, we keep doing that, Buzzswole. So I think Pheromosa probably stays out of S.
She did one-tap Lycanroc.
That's true. So maybe just between Buzzswole and Lycanroc? Ugh.
I'd put her on under Buzzwole for the sake of not being able to eat a hit.
Yeah, I want to see Ash's real Pokemon be in S tier, not these Ultra Beasts, but
when we get to his Journeys team, we'll get there.
There we go, yeah. Yeah, you're right. Okay. So, next...
More temp do we count Pidgeot in there?
No, I think Pidgeot was definitively part of Ash's team.
Yeah. We could say his Ride Garchomp next, then.
Okay. What feats does the Ride Garchomp even have?
He harms Necrozma, if you can believe it.
Okay. I mean, alright, you have my attention with that one.
He keeps up with Celesteela of all Pokemon, who is a actual rocket.
Okay.
But other than ramming himself face first into the mountain peak, he has no durability feats to speak of.
Okay. And I mean, being a Garchomp in the Pokemon anime, I feel like gives him a lot of clout anyway, but...
He's a weirdo that I put, like, anywhere in B or the lowest of A.
I was going to say B, probably, because I don't see him taking out Crocodile due to his showings. I feel like he might be kind of like a Mimey situation, where he has good feats in what he has, but otherwise he doesn't really have feats. Yeah, he's like if Mimey and Garchomp did the fusion dance, they would end up as a solid A.
Yeah, but I think right now you can put him just above Mimey.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And being a pseudo-legendary in general gives him more leeway, I think.
Do we count the Rotom Foam as temporary? Oh, Raticate.
Yeah, Raticate. I think it's fair to put Raticate in D.
We never saw him fight except against maybe Ash's Butterfree. And even then, no, just put him...
Did he win that fight?
I think it was inconclusive.
Because wasn't that the reason that Ash had made the trade?
I don't remember that episode that well. Oh, he cracked Starmie's gem. And generally comparable
That's
to
what
Butterfree.
It was, yeah.
If we want to take it literally, we can say Butterfree fought Staryu and Raticate fought Starmie.
I mean, it did seem like Butterfree was about to win that battle. He paralyzed Raticate with Stun Spore. And before Ash could kind of initiate the win, the guy who was using Raticate called the battle off and just called it a draw. Which kind of feels like you're on the playground and someone throws up a force field, but whatever. I think it's probably fair to put Butterfree above Raticate.
Yeah, I think that's valid.
So I guess the next temporary is Seeking, unless we want to count Rotom Phone.
Let's just put Seeking at the bottom right now.
Yeah, because, I mean, Seeking doesn't really... Does Seeking even get feats?
No, it's a catch-and-release fishing contest.
That's what it was. Okay, yeah, so even Beedrill, who has no feats, at least gets to be a Beedrill in the Pokemon anime.
Seeking are fish. Narratively, they are fish.
Yeah.
Rotom Phone.
Phone, okay.
I'd put him in C. He's weirdly fast. Being able to keep up with Ride Garchomp and the other Ride Pokemon.
But does he have any other feats, besides that? Besides speed?
I think he has some decent durability feats. He can shrug off Pikachu's Thunderbolts. But then again, most Pokemon can do that. He can also keep track of most Pokemon in general, save for the Totem Gumshoes and Pheromesa.
So I guess it might be fair to put him above Larvitar.
I don't think it's fair because Rotom gets so many anti-feats. He is not stronger than a regular person.
Yeah, okay. I could probably throw him on the ground and crack his screen. It feels like the only thing that keeps him out of D tier is just his speed.
Speed and durability, yeah.
But yeah, I think it's still probably just fair to keep Rotom Phone in C.
Yeah, that's where I put him. Next, temporary. Nebby.
Okay.
Solgaleo.
I mean, this is another temporary legendary.
He's pretty much on par with Necrozma and Lunala, even like Dusk Wings Necrozma.
Yeah, so he's probably, I would think Solgaleo, being a box legendary in the anime, is going to be S tier regardless.
Like, narratively, he's about as powerful as any other box legendary.
Do you think that puts him at the top tier of S?
Not top tier. I'd say he's in a weird spot of being above Infernape or Charizard.
Wow, I hate that.
Me too, but I'm staring at the box legendary. Ash had it on his team. He was the owner of this Pokemon.
Yeah, I guess so. So other than fighting, I say other than fighting Necrozma, like that's not one of the most impressive feats on this entire list. But does he have any other showings other than that?
He's plowed through Crystal, a combination of Pikachu, Dusk Lycanroc, Turtonator, Olamarowak, and those are like A tier Pokemon, except Vulpix. And he pretty casually handles Nihilego.
Yeah, and it feels like he would probably logically scale above any of the Tapus, which are pretty relative to Alola Pikachu.
Yeah, even also comparable to Dusk Lycanroc. So, could easily plow through any A tier on this list.
Yeah, definitely.
But the thing is, where does that put him?
I guess, I don't want to put him above Charizard, but he's a box legendary.
He's a box legendary. When's the last time any Pokemon fought a box legendary aside from Croagunk?
I mean, I guess Greninja has the scaling to Alon's Charizard, who in turn scales to the box legendaries from Ruby and Sapphire.
Also has direct scaling to Zygarde.
Who was it?
Zygarde. I think it was 70%. Zygarde. And then they both fought the Megalith, which only 100% Zygarde could completely overpower.
Okay, well, I guess we can put Solgaleo, I don't know, I guess top 4?
Top 4... We're going to be asking a lot of, is this Journey's team member better or worse than Solgaleo?
Yeah, I feel like that's going to be the threshold. I don't even want to look at the tier list, but whatever. I guess you can't argue that Ash having a box legendary is going to not put it up in S tier at a pretty high level.
Truly, Solgaleo is the vampire of the tier list.
Oh god, it's such a painfully accurate comparison. But I guess I think we got our last temp next.
Stakataka actually goes in B.
You think so?
There's nothing any of the Lolabons could really do to it, but it has no output feats aside from being able to crush a golden statue, I guess. Or at least a gold statue falling off it basically destroys it. It's plowed through Pikachu's Electro Web and no sold attacks from basically all Alola kids, but it doesn't really have any feats of attacking otherwise.
Yeah, like it's essentially just a brick wall, almost like Mimey in a way.
Yeah, in terms of speed, it's faster than a car.
Ooh, S tier. So I guess maybe just below Torterra, above Garchomp.
Yeah, I'd say this Pokemon has more. You could reasonably say he can attack and has shown more physical feats all around than either of those two.
So he probably has like A to S tier durability, but nothing else.
Yeah, even then the Electro Web he broke through was a weakened Electro Web.
Okay, so yeah, I feel like that's probably a good place to put him. But now that we're done with the temporary Pokemon, I guess we can move on to let's go ahead and do Apom. He's been sitting there waiting at the top of the list this entire time.
Yeah, she's a weird one because she was around at late Battle Frontier, early Johto, which makes her scaling very interesting.
Yeah, like late Battle Frontier, early Sinnoh was probably like, I don't know. It's hard to say. Also, we're probably just going to take feats.
She can clash with Chimchar's Flame Reel. Goes toe to toe with Hunter J's Drapom, comparable to Buizel while she was owned by Dawn.
Yeah, I feel like we'll probably just take Apom for when she was with Ash.
She one-shots Dawn's Pachirisu. I remember talking to you about that, but I think Dawn's Pachirisu is like a low C tier Pokemon.
Okay. So I think it'd probably be fair to put Apom in B tier.
Yeah, like that Chimchar feat is surprisingly good.
So do you think maybe below Mimey? Or do you think that Apom deserves to be above Mimey?
I'd say below Mimey, because she doesn't really get into full swing until she becomes Ambipom, and by that point she is not Ash's Pokemon anymore.
Okay. And I honestly don't see Apom taking out a Garchomp in general.
It'd be funny.
It sounds like an anime feat.
And like I said earlier, she does have a feat of shrugging off an ice beam from a Regice.
Yeah,
that's so stupid.
Yeah, it happened. So I guess we gotta throw it up on the screen.
Uh,
But one of my favorite Pokemon that Ash has ever owned, we got our girl Bayleaf.
Bayleaf. I'd say she's extremely comparable to Bulbasaur.
I was going to say the same exact thing. They have a lot of similar feats and a pretty similar place in Ash's team in their respective times that they were on his team.
Yeah, like, she's... In Journeys, she's shown to be Ash's fastest Pokemon with the incentive of, oh, I can see Ash again.
God, I love Bayleaf so much. In terms of loyalty, Bayleaf is S tier.
Yeah, I think she's more loyal than Sceptile.
So do you think that Bayleaf is going to be low A tier? Because it does feel a little weird putting her over Crocodile.
It's capable of keeping up with Gary's Blastoise, even if she gets overwhelmed by it. She took down Harrison's Houndoom, which took down Snorlax, actually.
Okay, I mean, that's a pretty decent feat.
Yeah, and even with the explicit type disadvantage, her being able to do that is crazy. She breaks through glass that Ash and Johto Pikachu couldn't even budge. And Ash in this exact same season is weird. That was when Ash was weirdly competent physically.
Yeah, early Ash was a real hand thrower.
Yeah, she can throw Ash literal hundreds of feet into the air, and she's faster than Johto Pikachu, Cyndaquil, Totodile, and Bulbasaur.
Okay, so I think maybe putting her in low A, like maybe below Bulbasaur, just because I think Bulbasaur has better combat feats.
Yeah, I give Bayleaf speed and Bulbasaur combat.
I think that's fair. Which I get, that honestly kind of like proves our point of Unova being pretty shit tier. Like the fact that Crocodile is below Bayleaf, who isn't even Ash's strongest Johto Pokemon, which is 3 generations before.
Also shows how hard Torterra really drops.
True. So I guess Boldor's next, and like we said, I think he's definitively below Crocodile, so probably at least at most B tier.
Yeah. There's a lot of scaling to Boldor. He's fought Iris's Excadrill and defeated Clay's Excadrill, which is a Pokemon that was capable of defeating Snivy, which, as you'll see later, is strangely impressive.
So maybe we should do Snivy first, because I feel like Snivy will probably kind of determine where Boldor goes.
Yeah, Snivy. To anyone watching the video, did you know she has feats against Tornadus and Thundurus?
Oh my god, yeah, our girl is high tier.
Attract strats are shockingly effective. Honestly, anime portrayals are kind of a sausage fest in terms of teams. I think the only female-dominated teams we've ever seen are like Cynthia, Diantha, Drasna, maybe. Dawn. Her Leaf Storm can stop Bianca's Pignite's Flame Charge in its tracks, which can match Unova Pikachu's Full Tackle, which, while being its strongest move, is still being used by Pikachu and Unova, so...
Yeah, so...
Pikachu is capable of being Crocodile, who could go on par with Ice Dragonite. Scaling Chains!
Right, yeah. Our favorite thing in the Pokemon anime.
She nearly one-shots Oshawott, who's one of Ash's stronger Pokemon, somehow.
So do you think maybe Snivy goes above Torterra, or do you think Torterra is just too much for her?
I'd say with the ease of which she handled Cameron's Riolu, and her surprisingly good showing against his Lucario, which is the most plot-boosted thing I've ever seen, she could go above Torterra. Plus, she has the feats of face-tanking an attack from Tornadus. Also, able to react directly to Elisa's Emolga, which is a sound-dodging Pokemon.
This is so goofy, but I guess we have to put Snivy above Torterra.
She also clashes with a Gothitelle Psybeam, who has the ridiculous ability to distort space.
Oh my god. So I guess we're scaling Snivy to Pyalga now. Or Palkia, I meant.
I think putting Crocodile and Snivy directly next to each other is what's best here.
Yeah, putting Snivy and Crocodile right next to one another.
Crocodile is stronger, but Snivy is a sleeper hit.
Okay. And like you said, Boldore does have scaling to put him above Snivy, so do you think just putting the chain right there, Crocodile, then Boldore, then Snivy?
Boldore has defeated a Pokemon that can defeat Snivy pretty handily and overwhelms it. Sturdy comes up more than you'd expect as an ability, which can make it take some really interesting attacks. He does alright against Cameron's Hydreigon, and Hydreigons are shown to be at least decently strong, and I think he's the only one of Ash's Pokemon that can use Sandstorm.
Well, that's certainly something.
Boldore is not impressive, but he's stronger than Snivy by default.
Okay. So yeah, I think that's fair putting them... God, Torterra really is just getting shit on in this tier list.
I'm sorry, Torterra.
So let's just get the rest of Unova out of the way.
Yeah.
So Oshawott next, I guess.
Oshawott.
That's what I meant. I meant Unova.
The most inconsistent Pokemon on Ash's team. Period. At his strongest, I can put him above Snivy. At his lowest, he's borderline C.
Ooh, that's pretty rough.
Got some surprisingly good scaling to Dawn's Piplup, who I would say is a alright B-tier Pokemon. He also has a weird feat of blocking Iris' Dragonite's Flamethrower, but only with Piplup. When I say inconsistent, I mean either one shot by Snivy or eats like a minute's worth of attacks from a Dewott stronger than Oshawott itself.
Oh, so it's probably fair to take him at his league
And
performance.
he did,
because that would have been Oshawott's peak.
He was doing better against that Hydreigon than Boldore did. I don't remember if he won against the Hydreigon or not, but he did do better.
God, that feels weird because I feel like Snivy's portrayed as stronger than Oshawott in Unova.
But Boldore, after his showing against Clay's Excadrill, starts falling off, is the thing.
Okay. So it's kind of like a Torterra situation. I almost think maybe put Torterra above Oshawott.
I couldn't in good conscience put Dawn's Piplup above Torterra, and that's about the level Ash's Oshawott is.
Okay. So we got the Garchomp slaying Oshawott. So I guess the Unova team next is Leavanny. He
has a lot of feats of using String Shot. He's wrapped up Unova Pikachu, Boldore. It was her coughing which pretty easily defeated Boldore, and in turn Leavanny pretty easily beat that coughing. But I definitely don't think Leavanny is at that level. If we're putting Boldore above Snivy, which is incredibly cursed by itself, you are not putting Leavanny above Snivy above Boldore.
Yeah, I kind of think Leavanny, from what I remember about Unova's portrayal of Ash's Pokemon, maybe above Oshawott and below Torterra.
His String Shot is versatile and powerful, and Swarm is enough to make it comparable to his Sock, which in Unova is portrayed as one of the strongest species in general in there for some reason. I think it was Stefan's
Sock?
I think that same Sock went on to give Crocodile a really hard fight.
Yeah, I remember Stefan being one of the stronger rivals in Unova.
Gave Crocodile a hard fight after fighting Leavanny, but Crocodile had already suffered some damage that put them about the same level.
Okay, I think where we have Leavanny is probably fair.
This is a Pokemon I wish would come back in another league just so we can get an idea of what it can do.
Yeah, I feel like that's a lot of Unova.
Unova is somehow everybody is underutilized. And the most underutilized one of all, Palpitoad.
Yeah, I was about to say, the same. So I feel like Palpitoad might even be C tier from what I remember.
not that bad. Like, he's at least comparable to the likes of Oshawott, Pignite. But man, what a Pokemon with nearly 0 showings. It's stronger than Oshawott's Water Gun and Pignite's Flame Charge, and I don't think it gets anything else of note.
Do you think just putting it at the bottom of B tier?
I think we could do that, honestly. If you want the Pokemon with the least amount of showings Ash has ever used, I think it's Palpitoad.
I feel like that's one of those Pokemon that you forget Ash has. Because his Unova team, didn't he catch like 7 or 8 Pokemon?
It was one of his highest catch counts. I honestly thought Palpitoad was Silence before it was Ash's.
Well, that just says everything, I guess. So Pignite is next.
I'd say... I think he's stronger than Leavanny and Oshawott, but not above Torterra. Like, physically he scales over those two, and second only to Boldore in strength, not counting Crocodile.
Yeah, so of Ash's like non-ace Unova Pokemon, Pignite's probably the second physically strongest.
Yeah, he kind of curb stomped Dawn's Mamoswine, which is probably her strongest Pokemon.
Once again, he does have like the double type advantage for what little that matters in the Pokemon anime. But I think having him as a solid B tier is probably the best.
Yeah.
I don't see him being stronger than Torterra for certain.
He gave Trip Superior a good fight, which is his ace, but not stronger, and I genuinely think Snivy could give that thing a better fight.
Okay, so I guess we got Scraggy next. He's probably one of my favorite Unova party members. But he's also not great, from what I remember, because he's a baby.
Yeah, he's a baby. He's faster than Axew, which is nothing.
Whoo! Giving him the sauce.
He overpowered a Simisage able to use Giga Impact, and
AKA one of the strongest moves in the anime.
He's tanked hits from Montgomery's Throw, who's strong enough to suplex a boulder and pretty handily be superior than Iris's Excadrill.
Oh wow. Okay. So maybe where I have him right now is probably a little too low.
I think he's above Noctowl. I'm shaky about Palpitoad.
I guess we can probably keep him at low B tier. He almost feels like king of C tier.
He might be the king of C tier.
I could probably see that, because I think he gets more time to shine than Noctowl.
Yeah.
But his scaling isn't nearly as good for what little Palpitoad has. I don't think his scaling is as good as Palpitoad's.
The near non-existent scaling of Palpitoad and the near non-existent scaling of Scraggy.
Yeah, actual infant Scraggy in C tier.
I think the only Pokemon that are as young as him are like Donphan and Lucario.
Maybe Togepi.
Gibble.
Oh, my boy Gibble. We'll get to Gibble. But for now we have Unfezant.
Sucks.
Unfezant is garbage. I don't think Unfezant is D tier necessarily.
Like, she's as fast as Cynthia's Garchomp in flight. But
isn't that about it?
Yeah, that's it. The only thing she had is speed and breaking up cage that was holding Pikachu.
Which, show me a bird Pokemon that's significant that hasn't done that.
She's above Jessie's Swoobat, which is honestly the weakest Pokemon I think she's ever owned.
Yeah.
She gets beat up by Riolu, specifically Cameron's Riolu.
There's not a worse anti-feat to have.
I'm baffled it even happened. She doesn't suck as hard as Rotom, and I'd feel bad putting her below Larvitar.
I feel like maybe just below Noctowl above Larvitar, considering Larvitar, like Scraggy, is an actual infant.
Yeah, if you combine Noctowl and Unfezant, they'd be on alright B tier.
Okay, well, we can go ahead and put Unfezant as probably what's going to be the weakest bird Pokemon on Ash's team.
Oh, undoubtedly. Like, the only Pokemon that could possibly uncrown her is Pidgeot, and even then, Pidgeotto probably has more feats than her.
And Pidgeotto's pretty bad. So, I mean, I guess since we just did Unova, we can go ahead and do Kanto, maybe?
Yeah,
So the first one in order would be Kingler, the absolute beast Kingler.
it's broken a cloister shell, and his crab hammer is stronger than Corpish is crab hammer. Do you remember anything else Kingler has?
He loses to Psyduck.
he tags a Crobat one time.
Yeah, I remember in his first battle, he does pretty much sweep a league trainer that did get all 8 of Kanto's badges. So I feel like he's pretty decent in terms of a league fighter. Like, it was his first battle as a Krabby, and he evolved, I think, immediately.
Yeah, that's not bad, but keep in mind this is the same Pokemon League that let in Richie.
That's fair. Kanto is easily the scrubbiest of all of all league competitions. So do you think? I mean, Kingler is portrayed as pretty strong. Getting one shot by Psyduck isn't great. So do you think that keeps him in C tier?
Unfortunately, because Psyduck is not strong.
Psyduck does get a little stronger in Alola, but that's after he gets a little bit more control of his psychic powers.
And even other Pokemon in Misty's team, like Poliwhirl, can give Krabby a hard time. Or Kingler, rather.
Yeah, so I think having Kingler as King of C tier is probably good. Just because when we get into C tier, for example, I don't see Kingler even getting close to Mimey.
Now, it's a weirdly fast crab, but not fast enough to catch Mimey.
Yeah, it's not stepdad tier.
Not as strong as Godkill or Apom.
Yeah. Kingler isn't tanking a Regice attack for sure.
That's so stupid. Alright.
So Muck is next.
I'd say A tier.
A tier, really? Because the most thing I remember from Muck is he took out that Bellsprout that was shitting on Pikachu in hand-to-hand.
He also completely no-sells physical attacks from both Gary's Blastoise and Gary's Scizor.
Okay, that's pretty saucy. I feel like that's probably his main stat is defense.
Yeah, and Muck was even able to tank a Hydro Pump from Gary's Blastoise, which, like, in the same fight caused Bayleaf to fold.
So do you think that puts him definitively above Crocodile?
Oh, that's a weird question, because Muck has no speed, but inherently his durability is so high that...
See, I almost feel like he should be like a higher B tier. Because I feel like A tier should be reserved for like higher tier league competitors. And while Muck is kind of like... I feel like Muck is very situational.
Yeah, like, against physical fighters, Muck is extremely effective, but if you send him out against, like, an Alakazam, what is he doing?
I think that's fair. So maybe put him above Boldore, below Crocodile?
Yeah. M above Snivy is cursed, but it makes sense.
I mean, obviously we're not doing it specifically in one versus the other.
Oh yeah.
But if Snivy versus Muck, I feel like Muck is taking that.
Yeah, I think while Muck is a specialist, the things he specializes in put him up above the average performers of like Snivy or Boldore.
Okay, so somebody who's definitely below the average performer is Pidgeot.
Oh gosh.
Where do we think we're putting Pidgeot? Because I feel like Pidgeot's a C tier.
C tier, yeah. The Pidgeot in the league, in the Kanto League, I think goes block 2. And I guess you can use that as a baseline for Pidgeots.
In all of Kanto, I don't know if Pidgeotto won a single battle.
He fights Starmie and consistently fights Team Rocket.
Yeah, he's a balloon popper. That's like his main role in the series.
Man, what a poor guy. I remember him having better showings than this. What's going on with you, buddy? Like, narratively, I think he was supposed to be one of Ash's like middle level Kanto Pokemon, but then he just stopped fighting. I'd be pressed to say he's D tier though. I think he's C tier at bare minimum, but at bare maximum he's not clear and unpheasant. Unfortunate, but I think we found.
Yeah, see, I was gonna say maybe like above Unpheasant, below Noctowl?
Unpheasant gets fights. She at least performs
That's true.
In the league at all.
Yeah, so maybe below Unpheasant, above Larvitar?
Yeah. Sorry, Pidgeot.
Yeah, I mean, he's basically the jobber of Kanto. I mean, Ash in general is the jobber of Kanto, but Pidgeotto and Pidgeot get it really bad.
Kanto's hilarious because one episode he can have Pikachu power an entire city, and next round he gets bowled over by rando Pokemon number 7.
Yeah, like a Bellsprout.
Yeah. If you're jobbing in Kanto even harder than usual, you're not that good.
Not great. So I guess the last Kanto Pokemon we have is... Oh, no, we have Squirtle to go first. So, Squirtle.
He was in the Battle Frontier, but I'd be hard-pressed to put him in B. What did he do?
I feel like the only thing I remember him doing in the Battle Frontier was the battle against Brandon, which I feel like he was the least utilized in. Like, I feel like he's definitely the weakest out of Pikachu, Charizard, and Bulbasaur, for sure.
He put in work against Orange Island Drake.
That's true.
And he's put holes in a pirate ship. Other than that, I guess he was there for the Brandon fight.
Yeah, he was there through sheer requirement.
Like, alright guys, we're gonna get the Kanto starter so we can do Fire Red Leaf Green promotion. Guess you're here too, Squirrel.
So since we just finished Kanto Pokemon, I guess what region do you want to do next? We could do Johto?
Well, we can just do the bridge between Kanto and Johto, or the Orange Islands, with Lapras.
Oh yeah, Orange Islands too. Also, we have Tauros as well, which I guess is technically a Kanto Pokemon.
Oh yeah, Safari Zone. The episode we didn't watch.
Yeah, that nobody watched.
So, Tauros.
I mean, the only showing I remember Tauros having is, I think, in the Johto League in the Battle Frontier.
He has showings in the Orange Island quote-unquote champion. Fights Annabelle's Metagross pretty well, who can completely stop Volt Tackle in its tracks and overwhelm Corphish.
Yeah, I feel like his Battle Frontier showings are probably the best of what we're going to get from him.
Yeah, he defeated one of Orange Island Drake's Pokemon, I guess.
I almost feel like he's just a low B tier.
Tauros got punctured by a bunch of Beedrill. Just shrug that off, I guess.
Well, yeah, so Swarm of Beedrill is one of the strongest forces in all of the Pokemon universe.
Of course. But I think low B is perfectly fair.
See, I was going to maybe put him above Mimey, below Apom.
Yeah, I think that's where Tauros would go, because we have no idea what the exact consistency of Tauros is.
Yeah, there's literally 30 of them.
Yeah, for all we know, he could be using one. Maybe the one that fought Annabelle's Metagross is the weakest in the herd.
But yeah, I feel like that's probably fair for just because Tauros doesn't really have that many showings. Like I said, I think the Battle Frontier and maybe his fight against Drake in the Orange Islands is probably his best showings. Yeah, literally his only showings. So I think that's probably fair.
Stupid Regice.
Because Apom at least has the Regice feats to
unironic
to crutch him up. Yeah, so Lapras I don't really remember much from.
Doesn't get a lot of feats. Like Lapras can freeze geysers and dodge cannonballs, and Lapras fight a Blastoise that was strong enough to pull a rocket submersible, like a submarine. That's it, I think.
Okay, so I mean, yeah, and Lapras was super young too during the Orange Islands, if I remember correctly, and mainly acted as transport. Is Lapras C tier?
Is Lapras rides the line between C and... actually, no, she is not worse than Rotom.
Yeah, I feel like Lapras would beat Rotom and Larvitar.
I'd say the sole fact that Pidgeot technically gets speed.
I just love Lapras as a Pokemon.
Yeah,
so I hate
you
to
really
see
hate to see
her so low, but really does not have that many feats.
Primeape.
And you know who we forgot for Kanto?
The Pokemon that Kanto forgot about in Kanto.
Yeah, Primeape. Yeah, true, actually.
Yeah,
I mean, definitively below Charmander. And the best feats he gets are winning that fighting Pokemon tournament.
Like, Machamps as a species are strong-ish.
Yeah.
No, not that high.
Yeah. Maybe just below. Do you think Scraggy is better than Primeape?
I'd say Noctowl is better than Primeape.
I mean, like, Primeape's another one that just literally has no feats.
Yeah, like...
And gets beat by early Kanto Charmander.
Yeah, it really goes to show how bad Pheasant is to be below Primeape.
So do you still think Primeape would be above likes of Unpheasant, Pidgeot, and Lapras?
Unpheasant's weird because she does eat hits from Riolu, who is expressly a stronger Pokemon than anything Ash had then.
Yeah. I could probably see. So maybe above... Because Primeape was portrayed as pretty strong, but that was pretty strong at a time when Ash was very weak.
Yeah, it's like me going into the Little League and being the best baseball player there.
Yeah, I think that's fair. So we can just keep Primeape where he is in C tier. And that being said, I don't think we have any other Orange Islands guys to go place, I don't think.
No, now's the Johtos.
Johto Pokemon. So the first one in that order would be Heracross.
Heracross.
I feel like Heracross had some pretty good feats. I remember him just like... I don't remember who it was from. It may have been a Magmar, where he just bathed in its flames.
That was Gary's
and was still able
Magmar.
to keep fighting. Yeah, it was Gary's Magmar for that matter, yeah.
He had a pretty good performance against Tobias' Darkrai before Darkrai.
Yeah, I remember he hit him with a Mega Horn. I feel like Heracross gets himself out of C tier for sure.
Yeah, he's a weird duck. He is scaling pretty above Brock's Onix.
That's true. Would you be comfortable putting Heracross above Apom?
I'd say that's good. Yeah.
But would you say that any higher, like maybe above Oshawott, Levani, where...
I'd say above Pignite. Because that performance
above
against
Pignite?
Darkrai was pretty solid, actually.
Yeah, I mean, Ash didn't bring his A game really against Tobias, but from what he had, I'm pretty sure he did better than Swellow did, if I remember correctly, unless Swellow fought Latios.
Yeah, was Torkoal on that fight too?
Yeah, Torkoal got whopped on that in that fight, I'm pretty sure.
Poor Torkoal, I know it can do better.
Yeah, Torkoal doesn't get a lot, so I guess since we have a pretty comfortable placement for Heracross, we can move on to Torkoal, I think.
Oh yeah,
I guess Glalie would be next.
Well, if you're gonna skip over Quilava and Totodile like that.
Oh yeah, I forgot we're doing Johto. I saw the art style and I was like, yeah, he's Hoenn. But yeah, no, we can go ahead and do, where was it, Quilava?
Quilava.
I feel like the best showing I remember him having was beating that Skarmory.
As a Cyndaquil, he defeats Jasmine Steelix.
I mean, that's pretty decent. A pretty high tier gym leader's ace.
And inexplicably tags a Haunter with Swift.
Oh no. I guess it has bypass to elemental immunity as versus Battles Wiki would probably word that.
And then the moment it evolved into Quilava all the way in Sinnoh, it basically ragdolled a multi-story rocket mech that was no-selling Cyndaquil's flamethrower.
So do you think he goes above Kingler?
Yeah, I'd say above Kingler.
I would say maybe above Palpitoad.
He also beat Nando's Armoraldo, who did in turn beat Staraptor.
Okay, that's a pretty decent feat, because Staraptor I feel like is one of the stronger bird Pokemon that Ash had, maybe below Swellow and Talonflame.
Yeah, like top 3 birds.
Okay, so that's pretty decent. I feel like that probably puts Quilava above Tauros.
Yeah, above the likes of Tauros. I'd say above Apom too.
Yeah. Man, this Garchomp is turning out to be quite the guardian of lower B tier.
If you can beat an untrained Garchomp, congrats.
Okay, so Our next Johto Pokemon is going to be... Where is he?
Totodile?
I guess it's Totodile, yeah. I guess we already covered all the rest of them. Oh no, we have Donphan.
Donphan, the baby. Big baby.
Yeah, I don't remember Donphan having too much, actually.
Phanpy gets pinched by Kingler and is about as hurt as a regular person would get hurt by a normal crab.
I feel like Donphan's C tier. I don't remember Donphan doing anything really impressive. I think Donphan has a Hyper Beam.
He overpowers a random Charizard. He defeats Lucy's Viper.
That's what I was thinking of in Battle Frontier, yeah. Lucy's Viper. So I feel like Frontier Brains are portrayed as like high level, gym leader level, possibly even Elite Four level when you get to like Brandon.
Also overpowers Battle Frontier Pikachu's Volt Tackle, although he has the type immunity, so that's not really that fair.
Yeah. So I guess that's probably enough to bring him into B tier, maybe above Palpitoad.
Yeah,
maybe even above Tauros. I don't know.
In the Sinnoh League battle against Conway, he's portrayed as pretty above Noctowl.
Do you think where we have him right now is fair?
Yeah, I wish we knew a better solid ranking of the Battle Frontier members, since I feel like Annabelle should be stronger than Lucy, but I really don't know.
I would say so. I feel like Annabelle was... Because Annabelle was one of the ones that actually beat Ash the first time they fought. I feel like Annabelle was kind of portrayed as, like, second to Brandon.
Yeah, so I think because of that, you could possibly put Tauros above Donphan, but there's that consistency issue again.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair where he is right now. So Totodile's next. S-tier personality, but I don't know where he'd be in terms of power.
He KOs a random Charizard. One of many Johto wants to do that.
I mean, that's pretty impressive. I feel like Charizards are almost like that Garchomp effect that we talked about earlier, where Charizards are top-tier Pokemon regardless of whether they're like trained or not.
Otherwise, he doesn't get feats, basically. He has insane precision over his water gun and control comparable to, like, you know how Serena's Brakes can control her flames? Totodile can just do that shooting water gun.
Okay. So he's pretty decent. Do you think he's above Kingler?
No.
Yeah, because I was going to say, I feel like where he is right now is probably fair.
Yeah.
Because I could see him beating Scraggy.
That would be a funny fight.
Yeah. Because they do both have, like, very, very defined personalities.
Oh, yeah.
So now we're at Hoenn.
And first of our Hoenns is Corphish.
Yep, Corphish. One of my favorite Pokemon personally, but in terms of where he is in terms of Hoenn, I feel like he's probably a high C tier, low B tier.
I think strength-wise he's expressly below Kingler, but in everything else he's got the better.
I think he's above Kingler, you said? Or no, he's below Kingler in terms of physical strength, but everything else...
Yeah,
I don't remember him having too many crazy victories. I know he had a rivalry with Trico in the early stages of Hoenn, but after Trico became Grovyle.
Yeah, he can overpower Ash. He can also tank attacks from Grovyle.
That's pretty decent. I mean, Grovyle was probably one of the stronger Hoenn Pokemon. I mean, we put Sceptile high, but even as a Grovyle, he was still probably Ash's strongest Hoenn Pokemon besides Pikachu.
He was capable of fighting Annabelle's Alakazam, and in Battle Frontier is strong enough to match a Volt Tackle from Pikachu. Another C tier.
That might honestly shoot him into B tier.
Yeah. He also has some pretty solid durability of tanking a Blitz. It was either Chansey or Blissey that casually overpowered his Crabhammer with not even using an attack, and Corphish ate a bunch of punishment from that thing.
So you think maybe where he is right now is probably good? They're in low B tier. Above Palpitoad.
Above Palpitoad. He deserves to be above Palpitoad.
At least he has that. So moving into the next Hoenn is Glalie, which when I was a kid I didn't even know that Ash caught Snorunt because I didn't watch that far into Hoenn.
Kind of carries Ash through the Hoenn League because in Hoenn League, in that context, he either wins or loses due to cheese.
Yeah, I feel like that's like a like Glalie like a you either stomp the person you're fighting or you get stomped.
He's pretty comparable to Morrison's Vatang, and
Morrison was like one of the worst rivals in the anime.
yeah, but it is his ace, I guess. His class.
Yeah, so that's pretty decent.
Defeated a Charizard once, and I guess kind of comparable to Tyson's Sceptile.
That's pretty decent. So I feel like Glalie is just like I feel like he's like a similar level to Corphish, but slightly better.
Yeah, I'd say slightly better, just because while the showings it has are contextually pretty solid, once you zoom out and try to take Glalie as is, he doesn't really get anything. He's one of those Pokemon that show up for the league and nothing else.
Yeah, like I'm pretty sure he literally got caught like before Moss Deep. So he was like he was kind of like the Gliscor of Hoenn, but at least Gliscor got like more showings.
No, Gliscor showed up more. I'd say he's like the Crocodile of. If you took out like everything before Crocodile, he'd be the Crocodile of Hoenn.
Yeah. Okay. So, do you think that's enough to put Glalie above Donphan and Apom, maybe?
I'd say just below Quilava.
I think that's probably a good place for him. If we took the feats from Ambipom, I feel like Glalie would not beat Apom, but as far as when Ash had Apom in his party, I feel like Glalie's above Apom.
Yeah, Ambipom would probably go above Quilava, but she's too busy Tenix maxing. Ping-ponging.
So, next is Swellow.
Aside from having the most inexplicable technique in the anime with Thunder Armor.
Thunder Armor! Dude, yeah, that was just like out of complete fucking nowhere.
Capable of dispelling a sandstorm just by flapping its wings.
I feel like it's number 2 or 3 bird. Not
cancels
counting,
out a tornado just by flying in the opposite direction.
That's pretty decent.
Yeah, not even Piplup was able to do anything to a tornado. I don't even think Pikachu in that exact moment in Sinnoh could do anything to a tornado. And then keeps up with Latios and tags Speedform Deoxys too.
Okay, that's pretty crazy. So do you think Swellow is above Glalie in terms of Ash's Hoenn team?
Yeah, I like... Swellow took down a Whiscash that was overpowering Corphish.
So I guess our question would be Quilava versus Swellow.
I'd say Swellow has speed, Quilava has output. I think durability goes to Swellow too, because it can take a lot of punishment, like the...
As stupid as the Thunder Armor feat is, he still did tank the Thunder from Pikachu.
Yeah, that is of Swellow. Thunder Armor feat is one of those moments where you can feel like if Ash had a slightly different mindset, you can become like a master contest testier.
Yeah, that's something that would actually show up in a contest, and that and like counter shield.
Yeah, in an alternate universe, Journey's Ash would be defeating Wallace.
Yeah, in contests. So, one that I remember being very, very low tier is Torkoal. I don't remember Torkoal getting a lot of sauce.
Torkoal fights like 5 different Steelix over the course of its showtime in the entire anime. If you want scaling to Steelix, Torkoal is your Pokemon.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of his position in Ash's Hoenn team, is he's just the fire type, but he doesn't really have that many feats.
He's barely lost to Registeel, I remember.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like, it was strangely good against Registeel.
That's, okay, I mean, he has a type advantage, but I feel like that's still pretty crazy. That might bump him up to B tier. I was fully ready to put him in C tier. So do you think he would be above Corphish or no?
Yeah.
You think above Corphish?
Above Corphish.
Below Mimey still, though?
Above Mimey.
above Miami. So I guess our question is the various Tauros versus Torkoal. And Torkoal was in that fight against Tobias too. I think I remember him. He got stomped on by Darkrai.
Yeah, he did the worst. His thing is that he's unfortunately pretty slow. Like, as a Pokemon, he's fast by default, being faster than Eyesight and pretty agile for a little tortoise. But he is not faster than pretty much anybody above him, save Muck.
Okay, so do you think where we have him below Tauros is probably best?
Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
Okay, so next we got Buizel. He was scaling pretty well to early Sinnoh Pikachu.
Yeah, those two were basically rivals. It earned a double KO against Melee Lucario.
Yeah, that was probably one of if not his best showing.
Fought multiple Sinnoh Elite Four Pokemon, namely Flint's Infernape and Lucian's Bronzong, and he probably would have beat Paul's Ursaring if he wasn't poisoned earlier in the fight by Mechmortar.
So that's pretty decent. His Ice Aqua Jet is pretty good. I feel like he's above Oshawott for sure.
I wouldn't put him below Ven. I'd put him
below who?
He honestly, since he did better than against Paul's Drapion than Torterra in Staraptor did, so I think putting him up like around or above Torterra is perfectly fair.
I think maybe like this, he might be above Torterra, honestly, which just feels weird.
Yeah, Torterra unfortunately jobs like.
Yeah, I could see Buizel being high B tier.
Yeah, undoubtedly, narratively, this is a high B tier Pokemon.
So next we got Gibble, another baby.
Ooh, you're interesting, because you have the explicit statement of being able to one-shot Tobias' Darkrai.
Plus, he has pretty explicit... I know it's a gag, but Piplup is not able to tank his Draco Meteor.
Yeah, and Piplup's like a mid-B tier Pokemon.
So he's probably above Oshawott, Pignite, and Leavanny, I would think.
His speed scaling is a bit weird, because he doesn't really get any.
That's true. I remember his Rock Smash being weirdly strong.
Yeah, like, Rock Smash is probably somehow his second best move behind Draco Meteor.
But at the same time, I feel like Heracross probably outmaneuvers and beats him.
Yeah, Gibble, unless you're in the position where Gibble bites her arm, which is strangely often. Like, he did that to Conway's Dusknoir, just eating his fist.
So yeah, I feel like he's probably a pretty high tier, like, league-ready battler. Like, I almost wish he got evolved, which is funny because we have him above the Garchomp.
I think it was determined that he is a strangely strong Gibble.
Yeah, I think where we have him is probably good. Do you think maybe he goes above Heracross, Buizel, or Torterra, or no?
His output sure does, but in terms of, like, raw durability, raw speed, he's lower than what his output would make you think.
Yeah, like, I feel like his output is probably maybe the best in all of B tier, but as far as an overall combatant...
It beats out some A tier ones, too.
Okay.
Yeah, like... Gibble's a weirdo. Like, he's situationally strong in the same way Muck is.
That's a good comparison. So yeah, we'll keep him where he is for now. And then next we got Gliscor. I feel like he's another B tier. He does pretty well in the Sinnoh League.
Gets a near win against Paul's Torterra and Paul's Electivire. And he also does get a double KO against Barry's Roserade, who is stronger than Chimchar.
Okay, so I mean those are pretty decent scaling. Going against Paul's Torterra, I mean, arguably you could... Obviously Electivire is Paul's ace, but Torterra is the Pokemon that's been with Paul the longest.
Yeah.
So I feel like that might be enough for Gliscor to go maybe even above Torterra.
I'd say between Torterra and Buizel is fine.
I think it's funny how big B tier is.
Yeah, like, Ash trains the average Pokemon better than most people train Pokemon.
Yeah, like the B, like we said, the B tier is like great class Pokemon, which are like decent league competitors. So I feel like that's probably fair for how big it is. It's just funny. So last for Sinnoh is Staraptor.
Staraptor. What do you get again? He one-shots Nando's Roserade.
Which, like you said, yeah, is pretty decent considering it's stronger than Chimchar.
You're wrong.
Not, I said Nando's Roserade, not Barry's Roserade.
Oh, Nando's Roserade. Yeah, Barry's
But he
Roserade.
does,
Okay.
is able to keep up with Barry's Roserade too.
So I feel like Staraptor is probably... I feel like our main comparison is going to be to Swellow.
Staraptor has a lot of feats against Kalos Pokemon and being generally comparable, but inferior. Like, would you say Swellow could do better than Staraptor against Kalos Pokemon?
I think Swellow is faster, but I think Staraptor has better output because he does have Brave Bird in close combat.
Yeah, and those two moves are pretty devastating.
But I don't think he makes it... Oh, well... I mean, I think he makes it above... So I'm going to say I think he's above Swellow.
Yeah, these two were extremely comparable Pokemon. It's just that the context of fighting Paul is more impressive than most things Swellow does.
But do you still think that Staraptor belongs below the Garchomp threshold?
We could honestly put him between Garchomp and Stakataka.
Okay, I think that's probably fair, because he's kind of like just stronger Swellow, but like slightly less as good speed feats.
Staraptor being below Evanny, and that just feels like the most cursed thing in the world, but I guess it's how it
Yeah, that does feel really weird. I mean, the scaling's there.
The scaling's there.
It definitely feels weird.
Strange. Because I feel like narratively Staraptor is probably the strongest bird alongside Talonflame, not counting Noivern, of course.
Or Hawlucha, to be fair.
Oh, Kalos has a lot of flying types.
So I guess Hawlucha would be our next one that we cover, because we're going to Kalos next, since we already covered Unova. And Hawlucha, I feel like, might be an A tier, from what I remember.
Yeah, he can at least hurt Zapdos, but he takes one Thunderbolt from it and goes down. He's able to fight Korrina's Mega Lucario, but ultimately loses. And he staggers Lysander's Mega Gyarados, which is comparable to Megazord.
I mean, that's pretty decent. I feel like that alone probably puts him above Crocodile.
Yeah. And also defeats Elaine's Weavile. Defeats Wolfric's Abomasnow, although he was holding back in the first fight.
So yeah, do you think he has enough feats to put him above Bayleaf and Bulbasaur?
No.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, because I feel like he's more of like a middle tier support character in Kalos. He's definitely pretty high tier overall for Ash's Pokemon, because he is a Kalos Mon.
Just by consequence of being in Kalos, he's pretty strong, but not strong enough to clear the Grass Duo.
I just realized, did we not have Goodra?
Oh shoot, we forgot Goodra. That's the one I forgot. Oh no.
We can always... We'll go ahead, since we're in the middle of recording, we'll go ahead and put Goodra's placement in the comments. We can kind of figure out what that is after we record, but man, shame we forgot about Goodra.
I'd probably put Goodra like between Melmetal and Bulbasaur.
Yeah, I feel like Goodra's pretty high A tier, which sucks because we need more people in A tier, but we'll go ahead and put a comment amendment.
Put a sticky note in editing between those two Pokemon.
Yeah. So Noivern's next.
Noivern, worse than Hawlucha, probably still A tier.
Yeah, I would still say that he goes above Crocodile.
Yeah. It fights Zapdos better than Hawlucha did, and is able to fight a Mega Glalie that could freeze a Volcanion in place. But he does do worse against Elaine than Hawlucha did.
Noivern does have better feats against legendaries than Hawlucha does. I think Hawlucha's overall a better combatant.
This is the Infernape versus Sceptile debate all over again.
So next we have Talonflame.
Another one of the Pokemon who contends weirdly well with the legendary birds.
I think Talonflame might be above Hawlucha, do you think?
I'd say he's definitely faster. With consecutive Flame Charge boosts, probably one of the fastest Pokemon Ash has. And once they gain the momentum, they're able to completely wipe the floor with Olympia's Meowstic.
So would you overall say that he's probably the strongest regional bird Ash has, obviously.
Oh yeah, by far.
But do you think probably keep Hawlucha above him?
I'd say keep Hawlucha above a Talonflame.
So I guess we got Alola next. So Incineroar, who was Torracat for a pretty good portion of the saga. I feel like Incineroar is pretty high up there.
Yeah, at least comparable to Kui's Incineroar, who was his ace. Which is a Pokemon capable of defeating Melmetal, and his team in general can contend with Ash's best. But I don't think he quite clears the Snorlax barrier.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I think Snorlax's durability and overall versatility is probably a little bit too much for Incineroar.
Yeah. Even as a Torracat, though, his output was comparable to Red Eye's Dusk Lycanroc.
Yeah, and I feel like pretty much everybody in A tier is relative to one another. Like, I feel like Noivern is still going to give Lycanroc some issues.
Yeah.
It's not like the Crocodile compared to Palpitoad in B tier.
Yeah. Just like with the Ultra Class, the limits are way narrower, so it makes sense that more Pokemon are comparable to one another.
So I guess to round off Alola, we have Rowlet.
Strangely strong, I remember. He can fight Dusk Lycanroc.
So I mean, that's pretty impressive. I feel like that might be enough to drag Rowlet into a relatively high B tier position.
Yeah, he tanks hits stronger than himself, and his Z moves consistently take down Pokemon stronger than itself. He also 1v1'd Howl's Decidueye in one. In the process, that costume of his just eating the hit from Decidueye's Z move. And he can clash evenly with Torracat physically with just a peck.
So I feel like he might be higher B tier. I don't know if I necessarily think he makes it above Torterra.
No, but he is also strangely fast, being comparable to like the likes of Garchomp and Lycanroc. Also Pikachu.
I think that Rowlet's Z move might have better output than anything Torterra has.
But just as a Pokemon, I would say Rowlet is under Torterra.
You think he's under Heracross?
That's a good question.
I think the Z move might be enough to put him above Heracross.
Yeah. If we're taking in Z move, he's arguably above Torterra, but that's also a strange comparison to make.
And I just feel like his feats against Torracat are probably better than what Heracross has.
Yeah, even with the feat of stabbing Darkrai with Mega Horn, if he did even slightly better, Heracross would be an A.
Alright, so to round off the list, man, we got the Journeys team. We already got Lucario and Pikachu in S. And I'm just going to spoil it, I think pretty much all of these Pokemon are in S.
Undoubtedly, it's just where we can put them. I think we can start off with the weakest overall. It's either Gengar or Sirfetch'd.
I think Sirfetch'd might be the weakest.
Yeah.
Which isn't to say that Sirfetch'd isn't powerful. Obviously, he's one of Ash's strongest Pokemon.
He can block and eat hits from Cynthia's Garchomp, and actually he gets no KOs on Leon's team. What the heck? He didn't get any KOs, but he does double KO with Dracovish earlier. Drasna's Mega Altaria, he KO'd Cynthia's Milotic.
So he's easily, like, Elite Four to champion level for sure. Yeah.
Also spars with the likes of Lucario, Oshawott, Sceptile.
Do you think he's above Sceptile?
No. Yes?
Because I think he might be, honestly, just through sheer scaling to Cynthia's Garchomp.
And beating her Milotic is pretty good.
Yeah, like, I don't see Sceptile doing that, personally.
Yeah, you got a good point.
So, what do we think about Sirfetch'd versus Infernape and Charizard? Because I personally don't see Sirfetch'd beating Solgaleo.
Higher than Infernape? Questionable once you get to Charizard. Because I feel like while Infernape is very strong, he never gets above that Elite Four level.
That is true. So do you think maybe Sirfetch'd above Infernape?
Yeah, definitely above Infernape. What do you think about Charizard, though?
At the same time, I don't know if Charizard necessarily gets above that Elite Four level.
Yeah, he is a very strong...
he does have feats against legendaries.
Yeah, and the only Pokemon we really see other than Charizard himself getting those feats are either a Specialist or a Lane.
Man, it feels weird, but we might have to put Sirfetch'd above Charizard.
Ah, man, I don't like that.
Okay, the question is, Charizard versus Cynthia's Garchomp, how does he compare to what Sirfetch'd was able to put in? I guess just replace Sirfetch'd with Charizard in Ash's final team against Cynthia.
I'd say comparable, but contextually, because Sirfetch'd has the shield, he's able to do more.
Yeah, so do you think maybe Sirfetch'd between Infernape and Charizard? Or
I don't know.
Yeah, see, the Journeys team is where I really felt like we were going to hit a big stop.
I'd say I think let's leave them there for now.
Okay, so we'll keep Sirfetch'd there. So Gengar, I guess, is next.
Gengar, one of Ash's quicker Pokemon.
Yep, another S tier for sure.
Straight up faster than Eyesight to Volkner's Luxray and Raihan's Flygon.
And he was getting trained by Infernape, but that was pre-Masters 8.
Yeah, and even pre-Masters 8, he's still capable of defeating Paul's Metagross. But the thing that makes me stop at a hitch with him is that in his performance against Neon, he immediately went into G-Max, and even then was almost defeated by Inteleon.
Yeah. So I think I think he might be stronger than Sirfetch'd. It's hard to say. I think G-Max Gengar is more powerful than Sirfetch'd.
G-Max Gengar is definitely more powerful than Sirfetch'd. Even then, Gengar still has impressive showings, like putting Cynthia's Spiritomb at its edge to where all it needed was one attack from Pikachu to Destiny Bond successfully. It takes down Steven's Aggron. But the thing is, once Gengar went back to base, after taking that hit to the mouth from Inteleon, he got washed by Mr. Rhyme. Even, Sirfetch'd with the terrain disadvantage against Mr. Rhyme was doing better.
So do you think maybe where we have Gengar right now is probably best?
Yeah, considering with G-Max, I'd say so. I don't know how to compare him against Charizard. Again, it's such a weird comparison, because Gengar is one of Ash's weakest Journeys Pokemon, but even the weakest of Ash's Journeys Pokemon is knocking out champion level Pokemon.
Yeah, I feel like maybe we might be giving Charizard a little bit too much credit.
Yeah, I Charizard fights pretty well against legendaries and KOs only a few of them. I think that if we got to see Charizard again, in a proper fight, he'd probably be below both of these, unfortunately.
So do you think maybe putting him below Gengar and Sirfetch'd on par with Infernape again, or no?
But Sirfetch'd is the one I'm stuck on.
Think that looks a little bit better?
Let's go with that for now, because I'm still on man who defeated legendaries versus man who was able to plow through Garchomp's strongest attacks.
See, that's where I'm at with it. I think that Cynthia's Garchomp might supersede Charizard beating Articuno.
Oh, yeah. Here's the better idea how to compare these things. Steven, number 3 trainer, able to contend with box legendaries, Primal Kyogre, Primal Groudon. Cynthia's number 2. So,
yeah.
So unfortunately, Sirfetch'd is higher.
Yeah, I guess so, man. It's so weird. That's just how Journeys. That's the Journeys curse.
The Pokemon Shippuden.
God. So I guess Dracovish is next. Another S tier.
Dracovish takes down Leon's Rillaboom, which is, I think, is number 2.
Yeah, I think Dracovish is definitely above a Gengar.
Yeah, he's shown himself to be at least kind of comparable to Steven's Metagross, and was comparable to his Aggron as well, even if he was knocked out.
Do you think Dracovish is strong enough to go above Solgaleo?
No.
Yeah, you don't think he breaches that box legendary like threshold?
Even in the hyper-specific context of Dracovish doing that weird thing he did to Rillaboom, no.
I can agree with that. So, if we're happy with that, I guess our last placement will be Ash's Dragonite.
I think this might be the one that peaks out over Solgaleo.
Yeah, he did lose to Paul's Garchomp pre-Masters 8, but I feel like his performance in the Masters 8 tournament really showed that he's easily Ash top 4.
He puts insane work against Cynthia. He puts in pretty good work against Raihan. He nearly defeated his Flygon. And he basically one-shots Karina's Mega Lucario.
Yeah, so I honestly don't even think there's too much discussion that needs to be made. I think Ash's Dragonite, other than his top 3 aces, I think is probably his strongest Pokemon.
Yeah, I think that as well.
I mean, do you have anything else to add to where we've placed everyone on the tier list?
Like I said before, Goodra spiritually goes before Melmetal and Bulbasaur.
Yeah, well, I'll make sure to add that amendment in the comments. But, I mean, hey, I'm missing one Pokemon. That's not bad.
Yeah, not bad. 55 out of 56.
So yeah, just like the other tier lists, we've got the bottom of D. We'll snake around to the bottom of C, bottom of B, up to A, and just snake it around. And that's basically how we would rank all of them from weakest to strongest, from Seaking to Pikachu. So yeah, I guess if we don't have anything else to add to the tier list, is there any amendments you want to make just as we're looking at it?
The more I stare at B tier, the more cursed it looks, but it entirely makes sense.
Yeah, it does feel very weird to have the likes of Swellow, Staraptor, Corphish even below Leavanny, but I mean, if the scaling is there, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, definitely comment down below which changes you would make to the tier list. Comment if there's any other Pokemon or Ben 10 or whatever series tier lists you want us to cover. We're kind of just running through whatever. We only really did this one because we're approaching the end of Journeys right now, where Ash has become the strongest trainer. But obviously give us a like, give us a sub, follow us on Twitch, go ahead and follow us on TikTok as well. And I guess if we don't have anything else on the tier list, I guess we can get out of here, Punny.
Yeah. Also, like the last one, you can let us know what your favorite Pokemon of Ash's is, even if you don't really want to tell us what you make changes to.
But yeah, I just want to thank everybody for watching. I want to thank Punny for helping me make these rankings and gathering all the feats.
Of course, I had a lot of fun, and trust me, it was very strange discovering some of these feats, because there's some of these Pokemon I'd really underrate or overrate otherwise.
Yep, I just want to thank everybody for watching, and I guess I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.